A few weeks ago, I talked about a category of film I called popcorn trash movies, which are movies that are objectively bad films, but subjectively, they are a good time, and how they find success by giving their target audience exactly what they wanted. I'm not going to get more into it. If you want more context, go watch my previous video. The reason I bring this up is because when the trailer for Sinners first dropped, I don't think I have ever seen a film with more potential to be one of the greatest popcorn trash movies of all time. I mean, you have gangsters, vampires, and Michael B. Jordan looking so fine they had to put him in twice. Twice! Now that's the kind of creative marketing we want to see. Whoever thought to CGI 2 Michael B's, give that guy a raise. Now, obviously, this movie was never going to win any Academy Awards. Well, actually, maybe. Did you see the absolute travesty of last year's awards? I mean, if you ever needed any more proof that the Academy Awards have completely lost all merit and purpose for existing, go look at last year's nominees and winners. What a clown show. Regardless, like I said, Sinners had so much potential to be great popcorn movie trash. You're telling me I might get to see vampires being ripped apart with a Tommy gun by Michael B. Jordan, potentially topless? I mean, he better be shirtless at some point. So, needless to say, I was full of excitement last weekend for the absolute circus I was about to walk into. And Sinners did not disappoint. Until it did. At first, I was so surprised by this movie because not only did it have all the hallmarks of great popcorn movie trash, with over-the-top set pieces, extremely glamorized situations, and characters that are too cool for school, but it was also written really well. The world building was phenomenal, the characters were dynamic and interesting, and they all felt real and fit so well into this world, you couldn't help but be fully immersed into the narrative. And speaking of narrative, it was well-paced and actually made logical sense. In 2025, crazy, I know. It was so fun and so well done throughout most of the film. But then, they had to just go and ruin the ride with a horribly written, piss-poor ending. And not just one, 5. That's right, this movie has 5 endings. Remember the Lord of the Rings Return of the King, where they just kept having ending after ending after ending? It's like that, but every ending is terrible. It's so frustrating. You were so close, this close to something truly special, and you trip at the finish line 5 times in a row. Why? I am legitimately upset at the wasted potential of this film. Oh, and spoilers, no one uses the Tommy guns on any vampires, and Michael B. Jordan is only shirtless for like a minute, and it's not even fun. The endings absolutely ruin the whole movie, because like I've said before, you can have a bad movie with a good ending, but you can't have a good movie with a bad ending, let alone 5 of them. So, for my highbrow critic score, I give Sinners a 6 out of 10. And for my schmo score, the score for the average Joe Schmo, I give it a 7 out of 10. Now, this is the part where I explain my review scores and get more into spoiler territory. So, if you would like to watch Sinners spoiler-free, this is where we part ways. Thanks for showing up, and I want you to have a nice day. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are many really good things about this movie. The cinematography, the costumes, the set pieces really made this world feel real. The music and the acting were all great, but I would really like to focus on one thing this film did well. Something that sadly most narratives are starting to miss nowadays. And that is giving time for the audience to get to know the characters. A crucial part of good storytelling is getting the audience to care about your characters. Because it doesn't matter how amazing your plot is or how epic the situations you create are, if the audience does not care about your characters, they will not care about your story. And I've noticed that a lot of modern day narratives are doing away with this crucial step and opting instead to just throw the audience into the middle of a situation with characters they know nothing about. Which I assume is an attempt to offset the non-existent attention spans of the modern audience. But if the characters are basically strangers to the audience, why would they care what happens to them? The answer is they won't. You need to give the audience a reason to care, and Sinners does this. Well, to be honest, they do a little too much of this. I mean, the first half of the movie is just dedicated to getting to know the characters and building up the world, which is way too much time. But it kinda worked because the characters were so interesting to watch. The vampires don't even show up till really the end, and honestly, I would have been fine if they never showed up at all and it was just a story about them. That's how invested I was in these characters. So they did a really good job with that. Now, time for the bad stuff. So this movie was far from perfect. There were some clunky editing choices with the title cards at the beginning and end. And like I said, it dragged on for a bit too long in the opening introductory scenes. Also, in the middle of the film, there's this long music scene that shows people performing from the past, present, and future, which really just ripped you out of the narrative. And I understand why that scene was in the movie thematically, and it was a really cool, elaborate scene, but I feel it really did break the narrative a bit. Because, like I said, at this point in the film, I was fully immersed in this world. But as soon as I saw a woman in modern day clothes twerking her ass in a Jim Crow era juke joint, I audibly laughed, and then was completely ripped out of the story until the scene ended and the movie continued. Again, I get what they were going for, I just feel the execution harmed the narrative more than helped. Which, all in all, these problems aren't really that big of a deal. What really ruined this film was the ending. All 5 of them. So, by the end of the movie, there are like 5 or 6 survivors left, holed up in the old juke joint, with about 30 or so vampires outside waiting to kill them. And they use the old classic vampire trope of, they can't enter any place they are not invited into, which is fine. But we all know at some point, the vampires are going to get in, right? So this creates a narrative problem. How are 5 to 6 regular humans going to survive 30 plus vampires attacking them all at once? And the writers of Sinners came up with the great idea of, let's have only 4 or 5 vampires attack the survivors, and the other 25 vampires, they'll just wait outside and watch. But why? Bad writing, that's why. They clearly couldn't think of a rational way for some survivors to live, so we get this really stupid action scene that makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, at one point, a couple of the survivors have died, and in the process, they've killed like 2 or 3 vampires, and the vampires are like, whoa, let's retreat. Why? There's only 4 of them left now, and you still have 27 vampires. Even if you weren't supernatural vampires, 27 still beats 4. What do you mean? Ugh, it was all just so dumb. And then at the climax, when the main vampire bad guy has the guitarist by the neck and is going to turn him, and they're standing in a riverbed with all the vampires standing around just watching, and with all of this, somehow one of the Michael B's gets past the vampires, dredges through the water, and stabs the main vampire, saving the guitarist. How? How did he sneak up on you? All the vampires were directly looking at him, and he has to trudge through 10 yards of water. What? It's so stupid. So the main vampire is dying, and the sun is coming up, and all of the other vampires just decide to die for no reason. Because it's established in the narrative that you have to kill each vampire. It's not a kill the maker and kill them all situation. But knowing this, for some reason, all the other vampires just stand there, slowly burning to death from the sun. Why? Why would they choose to do that? Ugh, it's so bad. And that's only ending 1. So at this point, only one of the Michael B's and the guitarist have survived the night. And throughout the night, the vampires told them that the white guy who sold them the building is actually a high-ranking clan member and is planning to come back with a group and kill all of them. So the remaining Michael decides to stay behind and have a shootout with the clan. And that's where he uses the Tommy gun and the BAR. And the whole scene is just so unnecessary and cringy, and everyone just dies. So what was the point? Then there's another ending with just a jumble of random flashbacks, followed by another ending where it's the present day and the guitarist is now 100 years old and a super famous musician, and he's sitting at this bar alone, and guess who walks in? It's vampire Michael B. Jordan and his girl. Dun dun dun. And it's revealed that he survived that night and had been watching his career, but he didn't do anything to him because he promised his brother he wouldn't touch him. So they just have a drink and he plays his guitar for them one last time. And I was like, what is happening? How did we get here? And then there's one more ending scene after the credits. Why? Why would you do this? The writing was so good up until the ending. What happened? Ugh. Like I said, it's such a disappointment. It was so close to being something really special, but in the end, it fell flat on its face. Rough. Anyways, that's all I gotta say about it. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and I'll catch ya at the next one.